Welcome back with me, Boosted Child Wishing Doge, where today I'm going to be covering Plants vs Zombies Heroes. This was highly requested in my Discord server. A lot of the people who watch this channel just so happen to already have been fans of this game or played it in the past, and so they like to see some content on it, and that makes a lot of sense actually, because this was also my introduction to card games as a kind of genre of games, and I absolutely loved it. You might be wondering though why I haven't made any content on this game really up until this point, if it's the first card game I ever played and I love it so much. And that's, unfortunately, to make a very long story short, just because the devs of this game got screwed over by EA. What a surprise. And so even though it still has an active player base to this day, despite receiving no new content for literal years, of course they're never going to be able to update it literally ever, because EA fired the vast majority of the people working on this game. And they have no artists anymore to make new cards. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, I would have played this game more regularly, but knowing that there's never going to be any new content ever again, and knowing that I've already tried all the cards and all that, it kind of made it hard to keep enjoying this game just when I've already played it for so long and I know there's never going to be any more new content. But obviously, there are still people playing it to this day. I kind of expected it might have died out eventually, even though I did believe it was a good game, because I thought, yeah, people are still going to play it for a bit, but like after a couple of years, surely people will just drop off it eventually. But sure enough, the game actually still has a very active player base. You wouldn't even think it's dead. You can find games really quickly a lot of the time. But enough about that. Most of you, of course, already know about this game who are watching this. If you don't worry. I think you should be able to pick it up pretty quickly, and I'll be explaining the card mechanics anyway as part of this. But yeah, for this free-to-play series, I'm going to be going through the game on this brand new account and just seeing how well I can do on a free-to-play account. Because on my original account, yes, I was free-to-play for a bit, but I did spend some money on the game, not a whole lot. It was mostly free-to-play, but even considering that, I started playing this game all the way back when it was brand new in Set 1. And when the game first came out, a whole bunch of cards used to be free and given to you from the start that aren't now anymore. And there was a whole bunch of other cards as well that used to be of lower rarities that are now super rares or legendaries. Thanks for that. Anyway, so now I'm playing free-to-play on hard mode because it was playing it later in the game's life when so much of the stuff you used to get that was actually really good as a free-to-play player you don't get anymore. You can clearly tell though I've already made some progress on this account, so what's that all about? Well, it just is because, essentially, when I started recording this, at first I was recording everything I was doing on this brand new account, but I just realised this is boring. Like, nothing interesting was happening for the most part, and I didn't really make any important decisions that like, oh yes, take notes, you need to do this. A lot of how you just earn stuff early in the game is literally just play the game. Like, not much more than that. So, yeah, most of that is just footage of me playing the game with pre-built decks, you know. It's not exactly exciting content. The only important decision that you've missed is something that I'm going to cover anyway, because obviously I realise it's an important decision, and that is the starting heroes I've picked. Let's go to the collection and have a look. So, obviously you can play as both the plants and the zombies in this game, and that will affect your turn ordering. Zombies play first, which is actually a disadvantage for them because that means that plants know where the zombies are going to be and then can play their plants in response, because in this game enemies can only attack directly in front of them, and the same is true for your allies. So you can see where the zombies are going to attack before you get to make your play. So as plants you have the advantage there, but to compensate, all spell cards, or tricks as they're called in this game, get to be played by zombies after the plants play. So essentially the zombies' turns are split into two halves. A half where they can only play their zombies, and a half where they can only play their tricks. But they get to play tricks after the plants have played both their plants and their tricks. As well as that, every hero has a few attributes about them that are unique. They have two classes that they command of cards. These are essentially kind of like the groups or families or whatever you want to say the cards belong to. So only Mega Grow heroes can use the green cards, and only Smarty heroes can use the white cards. And as you can see, those are the two classes that Green Shadow belongs to, so she can use both of those types of cards. They will also have 4 superpowers. Green Shadow here, who is the starter hero for plants, you don't get to choose this one, you just get it no matter what, is Big Chill, which freezes a zombie and draw a card. You can probably guess what freezing does, it just prevents one attack. You got Whirlwind, which bounces a random zombie, which just removes it from the board and puts it back into its owner's hand. You've got Embiggen, which gives a plant +2 attack and +2 health. And you've got her signature ability, Precision Blast, which will deal 5 damage, but it has to be in the middle lane, so you don't get to target it. These are your 4 powers for this hero. They'll always have this signature power. They'll always cost 1. I think they'll always all be tricks. The only exception to that is this hero. We'll get back to this. But yeah. As well as that, just a fun fact that a lot of people don't know about this game anyway, because they might not pay attention. Out of these less significant powers, you know, the non-signature one, there are 2 heroes that have each of these. The other hero that has the freeze power is Rose, over here, who, as you can see, has the freeze power as well. The other hero who has the bounce power, was it Nightcap, was it? Yeah, Nightcap has the bounce power. And the other hero has the Embiggen power, I believe, is Captain Combustible, yes. So yeah, there's always 2 heroes that have each of these powers. These cards are cards you can only get as this hero. You'll start with one of them at the start of the game in your starting hand, and the other 3 you'll get by filling your block meter. That's the last kind of unique gimmick about this game I haven't mentioned, really, besides the amphibious lane, but that's just a water lane that only amphibious cards can go in. But that's out of the way now. Forgot about that one for a moment. But these powers, essentially, you're getting them by blocking. And the way you block is every time you get hit, you have a meter of, like, with 8 bars on it. And it will go up by a random amount of 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, this is a lot of why this game has a lot of randomness to it. Because the block meter dictates a lot of how the game goes. And, of course, it's completely random what you get off of it. But essentially, once you get to 8 or more on your block meter, whatever attack hit you there when your block meter filled deals 0 damage, and you get a power. You have the option to either play that superpower right now for free, or put it back into your hand and play it whenever you want, but you will then have to pay the 1 sun to use it later. So anyway, I know that's a little bit long-winded, but that's how heroes work. And this is the one you'll be starting with on the plant side, Green Shadow. Unfortunately, on the plant side, the starter hero you get that you don't get to choose isn't that great. Not that she's terrible, there's not really any plants or zombies that are, like, unplayable, I guess. But Mega Grow and Smarty do not work all that well together. Mega Grow, as you could guess, is the whole idea is that they have big, like, stats, and they have the ability to grow every turn, like most cards in the Mega Grow class. And the only other gimmick they kind of have is this, they got bonus attacks, which is just what they sound like, an extra attack, like abilities that let you do more than 1 attack per turn and all that. And the Smarty class is about kind of gimmicks that let you outsmart your opponent, like freezing things to prevent attacks, bouncing things to put them back in their hand, and amphibious things that can go in the water and sneak past defenses. It doesn't actually mention this here, but another thing they're very well known for is Team Up, where essentially the plants have some plants with this Team Up ability, which lets them put 2 in the same lane, which means that, first of all, the one at the front can protect the one at the back, and second of all, the damage they deal gets added together. And that's really good, because if 2 teamed up plants attack the zombie at the same time, then it still only charges their block meter once instead of twice, which is really nice. Anyway, these 2 classes do not mix well. Smarty does mix well with Solar, because Smarty has some really good finishes, and Solar is a class about late game and ramp and healing. And it does also mix quite well with Kabloom, because this Kabloom class is about, like, direct damage and high attack units and all that. So having that combined with a class with lots of tricks to get around blocking zombies and all that makes this a really good aggressive hero. But yeah, Mega Grow and Smarty, not a great combination. But at least you don't have, like, bad powers. Freezing drawing a card is quite nice. This signature ability is kind of bad at high level play, but definitely against newer players they fall for it a lot more often, and it can be quite powerful. And definitely Embiggen is one of the better powers out there. It might seem inconspicuous, but just giving something +2/+2 for 1 is really nice. To be honest, this first episode, there's not really going to be much in the way of games, because I'm going to wait until I can really make some proper decks, even if they are budget decks, on this free-to-play account to really do many games. But either way, you'll be presented with your first choice after a few games of your next plant hero. You'll be presented with the choice of either taking Speedo, who is Guardian and Kabloom. Guardian is kind of what you'd expect. It specializes in high health plants and defensive abilities. And we already covered Kabloom was high attack plants and direct damage. Or you can take Solar Flare, who is Kabloom and Solar. I mentioned that Solar is all about the late game. They've got lots of healing abilities. They've got lots of ways to ramp to get more sun, which is obviously the currency for the plants, every turn. And they have some really powerful late game finishes. So you should always take Solar Flare here. As you can see, that's what I've taken. The only consideration to take Speedo is something I actually did not know for a really long time. You see, I always thought that you could only choose between these four. Well, again, you could even choose Green Shadow. I always thought it was just Solar Flare, War Knight, and Speedo. Like, those are the three you could get. But it turns out you can also, depending on what you pick, get Chompzilla for free at the start of the game if you picked Speedo as your first Guardian, as your first pick as a hero. Because essentially the reason why they give you these specifically is because they want to make sure you have one hero of each class at minimum, and there's 5 classes. So you can see we've got Mega Grow and Smarty here, we've got Kabloom and Solar here, and then we've got Guardian here. So if you took Guardian and Kabloom, you would need to see 2 choices for Solar. So they show you Wall Knight, or sorry, Solar Flare or Chompzilla, who is Mega Grow and Solar. Now don't get me wrong, I think that literally every Solar hero is at least decent. But Chompzilla is probably the worst Solar hero. I don't dislike this hero, I really want to give her a chance, but I know deep down, having played her enough, she's got to be the worst Solar hero. So even though she isn't exactly bad, yeah, you should probably take Solar Flare and Wall Knight over Speedo and Chompzilla. Anyway, so yeah, Solar Flare, I thought wouldn't be that great of a combination of classes, considering Kabloom seemed like a very aggressive class, but then Solar seemed like a very, you know, late game oriented class. But actually, she is really strong. And I think that comes down to, yes, she does have a bit of a kind of clash going on with her 2 class types. That she's got a late game oriented one and an early game oriented one. But one of the most popular signature cards of Kabloom is Berry Blast, which quite simply just deals 3 damage for 2. And this is actually an amazing card in this game, and it's free. So you'll have 4 copies of it to start. Berry Blast is really good in combination with Solar, because it will kill just about anything the zombie play on turn 2, or even beyond that. A lot of the time it very commonly is enough to kill the zombie that they play, whatever it is, and since they have to play their zombies first, you can basically cancel out their play for that turn, which really helps you stall to your late game plan. As well as that, there are some Solar cards that weirdly are actually really good at being aggressive, even though that's clearly not what the class is supposed to do. Solar aggro decks aren't a joke. They actually work, even though they're not the main thing the class is made for. So that means that Solar Flare is also simultaneously probably the best aggro hero in the game, even though she already has pretty good late game as well. Definitely one of the strongest heroes in the game. Definitely got to pick her. I think a lot of it comes down to, as well, the fact that she has amazing powers. Well, I say that. She has one power which is really bad. More Spore, which makes 2 1/1 button mushrooms in random lanes. They have no abilities, they're just 1/1s. There is mushroom synergy, however, the main reason you don't want this is because 1/1s are not a good idea in this game. Essentially, anything with 1 attack, yes, you're going to hit the opponent with it, but you're also going to charge their block meter when you do hit them. So you don't actually really want to hit them with 1/1s, because you're just increasing the chances that you're going to have one of your critical, actually high damage attacks get blocked because you charged at their block meter with 1 damage hits. And even if that doesn't happen, you're still going to give them a free superpower because you kept hitting them over and over with little 1 damage pings. So yeah, this is a bit frustrating because obviously it makes it feel like this card's kind of useless. But all I'd say is it's only the case for 1 attack things. 2 attack or more, it's worth it most of the time to just hit them, even if it charges the block meter. But 1 attack, yeah, unless you're getting a card off of it because that 1 attack thing hit them or something like that, generally not worth it to try and hit them with just 1 damage. So this one's pretty bad unless you want to do it to either clog lanes, unless you have mushroom synergy, or unless it would just save your life or enable a combo or whatever. You get the idea. The other 3 are all really good. Weed Whack is honestly probably one of the best powers out there. It just for 1 gives a zombie -2/-2. This very often kills zombies, and sometimes even if it can't kill them, it will at least completely disable them by giving them 0 attack. It is very powerful. This is one of the best powers in the game. And Scorched Earth is less powerful. All zombies on the ground get -1/-1. There are 5 lanes in this game, and the one to the left will be a heights lane, and that one won't count, and neither, of course, will the water lane. So it's the middle 3 lanes. This ability is definitely weaker than the one I just mentioned, but that doesn't mean it's bad, and I'll get back to why that is in a moment. But finally, there's a signature power, Sunburn, which this card is absolutely insane. Like, I don't think we talk about this enough because I think we're just too used to the fact this card exists because, you know, we see it so often. But can we just talk about how absolutely goddamn insanely overpowered this card is? This is a 1-cost card that will deal 2 damage and permanently give you +1 stun for the rest of the game. So you can play a 3-drop on turn 2 and then a 4-drop on turn 3 and blah 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 just by dropping this turn 1. Now, in fairness, usually when you drop this turn 1, you will have no targets, so you'll just have to hit them in the face, which is kind of a waste. But even so, I think paying 1 to, at the start of the game, deal 2 damage to their face and permanently get +1 stun for the rest of the game, and that can never be taken away, I think that's more than worth it. I know there's some people who say you should save it, but I think unless you're scared about a particular zombie that might really fuck you up if you don't have this card, I think you should drop this on turn 1 most of the time, unless your deck will run out of cards and have more sun than they need. So I said I'd get back to this card. The reason why this ability is good, even though it's clearly weaker than Weed Whack, it's more conditional, most of the time it's not going to get as much value, you can play around it more. But the reason why this ability is good is if you look at Solar Flare's abilities, say the enemy player plays a 2-1 on turn 1, which is very realistic. You have a 3 in 4 chance that you can kill that 2-1 for free on your first turn and completely cancel out their play. If you've got Weed Whack, it dies. If you've got Scorched Earth, it dies. And if you've got Super, it dies. Hell, even if you have more Spore, you have a 50, if you use it, you have a 50-50 of it hitting that 2-1. So you have an extremely high chance that whatever the enemy player plays on their first turn, you can completely cancel out as Solar Flare, which is huge. That's one of the reasons why I think he's such a good hero. I think that there genuinely is a decent amount of anti-synergy between these two classes, even though there are some things that work together well. But the reason why it works is just because her powers are so insanely good that it glues everything together. She's definitely one of the best characters in the game. She has the best aggro deck in the game for the plants, and she has some of the best late game. What more could you ask for? Speaking of one of the best plants in the game, another contender would be Wall Knight. Wall Knight is Guardian Solar, and, well, that already seems intuitively like a very good combination of things to have. Cards that are very good at being defensive, protecting you, keeping you alive, that have high health totals, and cards that have extremely powerful late-game healing effects and ramp. Yeah, that's a good combo. So, the only downside to Wall Knight, really, is the fact that his powers are quite underwhelming, I will fully admit. This one's not bad. The ability to summon a walnut, which is just a plant that has no ability except team up, and it has 6 health. Essentially, you can put it in front of plants already on the board to kind of give them a 6 health shield. So, yeah, you've got this card, which, because it replaces itself with another card and the walnut can help save your life, this is quite good. But these other two are pretty bad. Geyser will heal you and all your plants for 4, for 1, which is technically a good deal, but the problem is, remember you've got a 25% chance of starting the game with this. If you start the game with this in your hand, it's almost certainly going to be borderline useless for the majority of the game, and by the time it is useful, you'll probably be multiple turns into the game, and this will have been a dead card in your hand for like 8 turns. So, yeah, this unfortunately really does suck. And this one ain't much better, moving a plant and it gives +4 health. This is one of the least useful powers by far. Even after the buff, it used to only give +3 health. The main use of this power is if you get it mid-block, and because the attacks in this game go left to right, you can sometimes get a situation where you use one plant on the left to block an attack, then you yourself block, and then you move that plant to the right, and that same plant will block 2 attacks in 1 turn. Which is a pretty good combo to do, but that requires you to block mid-attack, have a plant to the left that's already blocked, and then randomly get this power instead of any of the other ones. So you're kind of relying on a lot of things to fall in place for this power to be good. Otherwise, it's definitely one of the least useful powers. At the very least, though, Wall Knight does make up for it with a very powerful signature ability, Uncrackable. Well, I say that. This is one of those ones that's really mixed. Some people think this is one of the best powers in the game, some people think it's one of the worst. It'll make your hero completely invincible for 1 turn and draw a card in its place. I think this is probably one of the best powers in the game. I used to think it was pretty meh, just because it is really bad if you get it turn 1, and, you know, already it looks like we've got quite a few powers that are pretty bad if you get them turn 1. So, yeah, like, this is not going to be useful when you get it a lot of the time. But I have learned, what I used to do before is I used to think, well, this isn't useful, I'll just cycle it, you know, play it just to draw another card in its place. But I have learned now, playing the game for longer, that this almost always does get huge value as long as you hold it. And that value is huge enough that it's worthwhile. Usually cards which get huge value if you hold it are a bad idea because you wait ages for it to get huge value, and by the time it can get it, you're already dead. But the huge value that this card gets is the damage it prevents, as in it keeps you alive. So yeah, you can really cheat yourself through getting like, it's through situations where you clearly should have died before you got to your win condition, by just essentially having a free turn of invincibility with this card, and then using that to ensure you survive long enough to get to your win condition. So yeah, Wall Knight's set of powers are almost all bad on turn 1, except Not Signal. So in general, he's really bad in the early game, but the late game of Wall Knight is basically unrivaled as potentially the best late game out of any hero in the game, except maybe Rose. And he has more than enough tools to make it to the late game without dying. He's always been one of the top characters, probably not the best anymore, considering a decent amount of strategies that used to be unquestionably S tier with Wall Knight have been nerfed. But even after the nerfs, there's still extremely strong strategies that do very, very well in ranked. I highly recommend Wall Knight. So those are the plants. Oh yeah, I also got Captain Combustible. That was actually just pure luck. I got him in a pack. I didn't pick him. But onto the zombies. The one you get to start is Super Brains, who is a mixed bag, but overall a pretty good one to start with. Definitely better than Green Shadow. For his powers, he gets Telepathy, which will let him draw 2 cards for 1. He gets Cut Down to Size, which will destroy a plant that has 5 attack or more. And he has Super Stench, which will give all zombies Deadly, which means that if they deal any amount of damage, even just 1, that will be enough to kill any plant that gets hit by them. Obviously, that doesn't count you yourself, like your hero. That would be stupid. And it draws a card in its place. Finally, there's his signature ability, which moves a zombie and makes it do a bonus attack instantly. This is really weird. Okay, first of all, let's just talk about the classes. Let's get that out of the way. He's got the Brainy class, which are kind of like the zombies equivalent to the Solar class. They have a lot of tricks and all that. They have a lot of ways to get extra brains, of course, the currency of the zombies. They have a lot of ways to get around the block meter. Generally, the Brainy class is probably the best class in the entire game on both sides. It's a very, very strong class. They kind of have almost everything that you need in one class. And the Sneaky class is probably the second best. So you've got a really good combination of classes. The Sneaky class is probably kind of self-explanatory. It's kind of themed around surprising your opponent or getting through their defenses instead of by killing what's in the way, by just sneaking around it. So they've got a lot of ways to move zombies after the plants have played, so that like they play a plant to block one of your things and you just move it out of the way, or you hide it in the like water lane and they can't play anything in there. Maybe you get the idea. So these are 2 amazing classes, but the reason why Super Brains is still a little bit of a mixed bag are his powers. All of his powers have extremely high potential to be instant game-winning kind of cards, but all of them are bad turn 1 except Telepathy, and most of them are pretty situational and hard to get to work. Which, again, this is not kind of what you want, considering you got to remember that you're going to get one of these 4 cards at the start of the game every single game you play with this hero ever. It kind of sucks that almost all of these cards are not good to have on turn 1, and almost all of them, although they will get enormous value if they ever get played, are going to be sitting in your hand for a long time. That being said, if you build decks around Super Brain's powers, he is extremely strong, especially this signature ability. I think people severely underrate how strong this is, because I never hear people talk about this power when they talk about the strongest powers in the game. This power is insane. You can end games on turn 2 or 3 easily sometimes with this power if you get a good enough hand. It's surprising, even with low-cost decks, like how easily you can melt opponents in literally like a minute using this card. Yes, you do need to high roll, But if you build your deck around, like, really capitalizing hard on those high rolls, I genuinely think that's a really strong strategy that's kind of underrated with Super Brains. But there's a reason why Super Brains is so underrated. It's kind of outshined by another hero. You see, I mentioned for the most part, we've got 10 on each side, and each one of these 10 is like every possible combination of the 2 different classes. But then there's this 11th one. This is because, again, back before the devs got screwed over, they planned to continue adding more characters to the game. They just only ended up adding 1 on each side and then never got to add any more. These new characters are still using the same classes as the old ones because every combination of 2 has been done. However, they now have completely different powers, which are now, instead of being shared across multiple characters, they're all completely unique cards. Like with this guy, Huge Giganticus, who is also sneaky and brainy. Yeah, here's the problem with Super Brains. It's not that he's bad, it's that there's this hero who has the same classes as him and just has better powers. Like, it's not even like Super Brains' powers are that bad, but when you look at Huge Giganticus' powers, one of them is literally a 1-cost 2/3 with Bullseye, which means that its attacks can't be blocked or charged the block meter. And on top of that, it has an ability that allows it to come out a 1-cost 3/4 if it's in an environment, which you can probably guess is a card which turns a lane into a new type of lane with a permanent effect. He also has a signature ability, which is one of the most overpowered cards in the game, which gives you a random environment from the game, and also makes every single card in your hand cost 1 less. In a game which tends to have pretty short games, where like you only get to like turn 6, 7 a lot of the time before the game is over, yeah, you run a lot more 1 and 2 drops, so it's not that uncommon that literally like you turn 1 use this, and then turn 2 you play like 5 cards in 1 turn. This is an extremely powerful card, so even though Super Brains isn't bad, he's kind of blown a little bit out of the water by Huge Giganticus. But still, I think you'll find Super Brains quite valuable, as I say. He's still got the 2 best classes in the game. His powers still get massive value if you get them in the right situation. And in fairness, even though Huge Giganticus does almost always beat Super Brains, first of all, in the right deck, Super Brains is still better. If you're running a deck where you essentially want to pull off an OTK, where you get some extremely high attack zombie, and you want to get around the defenses and use bonus attack to close out instant kills, yeah, Super Brains is your pick, not Huge Giganticus. But the other thing as well is you might struggle to get Huge Giganticus in the first place. You see, with the other heroes, you just have to buy packs and you'll get them eventually. With Huge Giganticus, you can only get him in Huge Giganticus packs. Where are the Huge Giganticus fat packs, you may ask? Well, they sometimes appear in the store, and they cost 150 gems instead of 100, but they give you 9 cards instead of 6 per pack. And they have I think it's a 3% chance to give you Huge Giganticus for each one you open. They just randomly show up sometimes and then disappear again. Like, there's no telling the next time that you'll be able to buy them. Because, again, the game's kind of half dead at the moment. Like, again, people are still playing it, and they're still keeping the servers up, but, like, no new content is really being made. So, it seems to be that they just completely randomly decide every now and then, okay, we'll put the Huge Giganticus packs back in the store for a couple of weeks, and then they go away again, and then they come back, and then they go away again. So, you'll probably struggle to get this guy anyway. Same for the Plants hero version, Beta Carotina. Although this one is considered one of the worst heroes in the game anyway, so although they're very fun to play, I can assure you you're not missing out on that much if you miss getting them and you don't end up getting them in the end. Personally, I think they're overhated. I think they're actually decent. I don't think they're bad, but I mean, the general opinion is she's one of the worst. Anyway, so this is where things get a little bit messy, because we've got 2 more zombie heroes to talk about. Only these choices might seem a little bit strange. Well, one of them. The Smash. So this is a weird one. The Smash is in the Hearty and Beastly class. In terms of just pure class combinations, this is one of the worst possible ones you could have. The Beastly class is... I don't think there's any debate on this anymore. The Beastly class is the worst class in the game. And I hate to say it, because I do find the Beastly class fun. But the main thing with the Beastly class is that it's really good at just having big stats and like huge game-finishing units. The main problem with that is that the plants play after you. If you play a huge game-ending unit, they just put something in front of it. And you can't attack through unless you take advantage of certain mechanics which allow you to. And that on its own wouldn't be bad enough, but then there's also the fact that the plants can hard remove it. And, well, hard removal is constantly become more and more efficient over time in the game. The main offender right now is this card, Shamrocket, which is a card which is added late into the game's life, at least when it was still getting new cards. In the Guardian class, which, as you can see, for only 3 sun, can destroy a zombie that has 4 attack or more. The Guardian class already is home to some of the best heroes in the game, so it's a pretty common class. So, yeah, you're going to be running into a lot of Shamrockets, and even if you don't run into the Guardian class, do you know what the other class who has hard removal? It's the Solar class. The other, like, one of the best classes in the game. Yeah, it's going to be rough for you if you want to run Beastly. Because these cards, these kind of, like, bottom 4 cards here are, like, your big, like, oh yeah, we're going to win the game off of these. And they just all die to Shamrocket. You pay 9 for a Zombot to destroy all plants, and then they just get to play more plants afterwards, literally the turn you played this, and then destroy your 9, cost 9/9 for only 3. It's like, ugh. Yeah, it sucks. That's not to say the Beastly class is unplayable, but generally all the Beastly heroes for the most part are considered pretty bad, except Immorticia. The main reason for that is because she's brainy and Beastly, and the fact that she's brainy means she can use Teleport, a card that only brainy zombies can use, which allows them to play normal zombies during the Tricks phase. The ability to play things like Zomba and these huge finishes during the Tricks phase instantly makes them a million times stronger, and actually makes them viable, but only with Immorticia. With any other Beastly hero, they are pretty bad. So anyway, I know that's a little bit long-winded, but the Beastly class is about big stats, as I say, and pet synergy. I didn't mention that, but there's pet synergy, but it's very high-rolly. Almost every single pet synergy card is extremely weak and easy to kill, so you have to really get in quick and get as many buffs as you can as fast as possible, and hope you can close out the game nice and quickly. But all that aside, yeah. The reason why this is a terrible combination is even though the Hearty class isn't that bad or anything, it's arguable whether it's second worst to Beastly out of the zombies. Maybe second worst, but probably, I don't know, it's not that bad. The main thing is that the Hearty class is about having lots of health and having armor and stuff like that. So we have stats and we have health. We just have a whole bunch of stats here, when the plants are really well suited to just dealing with a whole bunch of stats. So you might be wondering, okay, so you've just explained why this hero is so bad. Why did you pick them anyway? Well, it came down to a couple things. First of all, you are forced to pick a Beastly hero whether you like it or not, as your first decision. It's either the Smash or Electric Boogaloo. And I was actually extremely close to picking Electric Boogaloo. I will say, objectively, I think Electric Boogaloo is a stronger hero. However, I had to remember that I'm thinking about this in the context of a free-to-play run. With Electric Boogaloo, the reason why he's so good is because even though he's Beastly and Crazy, which Crazy is a class all about being aggressive and dealing direct damage, even though this is still a bad combination, he does have a trick as a superpower that allows him to deal 3 damage, and his signature ability also allows him to deal 3 damage, which means there's a 50% chance at the start of the game that Electric Boogaloo will have a card in his hand from the very beginning that can, for one, kill just about any 1 or 2 drop in the entire game, which is an extremely strong way to start a game. As well as that, even though this is generally a bad combination, I know firsthand, even though this isn't exactly a popular deck type, that Electric Boogaloo aggro is one of the strongest forms of aggro in the game. It is so powerful. He just has access to so many extremely strong 1, 2, and 3 drops. So, quite simply, just conjuring cards and just spamming good units on the board, you can close out kills even in Ultimate League extremely quickly with Electric Boogaloo. So I was really close to picking him. But then I realised a couple issues. First of all, I realised that, aside from this one aggro deck I'm thinking of, Electric Boogaloo doesn't have that many good decks. He does have a super late game control deck, which is functional. It used to be really good back in set 1, but nowadays it's kind of barely good enough to do it well in ranked, and it's more just for fun than for actually performing well. But the other thing is, I realised the decision that I'd be given if I picked Electric Boogaloo. You see, again, you get a different decision depending on which one you pick for your first one. Now, because I have now picked Electric Boogaloo, I then have to pick a hearty hero because I have Sneaky and Brainy, Beastly and Crazy, but I don't have Hearty. And of course I didn't pick the Smash. So my next decision will be, after I pick Boogaloo, do I want the Smash or do I want Rust Bolt? Now don't get me wrong, Rust Bolt is not a bad hero. They're decent. But if you pick the Smash, you don't have Crazy. So you'll get the choice to either pick Electric Boogaloo or Infinity. And I picked Infinity. Infinity is another one of the very strongest heroes in the game. So yeah, basically it came down to two things. It came down to me realizing, yes, Electric Boogaloo is on average better than the Smash, but I would require more expensive cards to make him work well at high ranks. And I also realized if I take Electric Boogaloo, I'll have to take Rust Bolt, which again isn't a bad hero, but the alternative is Infinity, who I think is genuinely one of the best heroes in the game. So, yeah. Also, I just realized I didn't even mention, the Smash, even though he is generally quite bad at high ranks, he is really good for budget, because one of his strongest decks is Sports Energy, and Sports Energy is really cheap to make. So, that's another thing. Anyway, yeah, Infinity is kind of insane. Oh, just wait, I didn't even talk about his powers. Oh my god, stop me right now. Yeah, okay, so the Smash, his signature ability, this at least partially makes up for his other downfalls. His signature ability is very powerful. For one, you get to destroy any plant you want with 4 attack or less, which will be the vast majority of plants in the game. So, that's quite a strong ability. For his less strong abilities, for his normal ones, he's got the ability to heal himself for 6. Obviously a terrible one to pull as your starting power, but overall that is a lot of healing for 1. Possessed, another one that's terrible to get is your starting power, but depending at the time to get it, it can be convenient and can really save you. Frenzy is a mechanic where if a zombie manages to kill a plant and survives, it gets to attack again. And it's mainly to help you without how I mentioned that because plants play after you, if you play something huge, they can just put something in front of that huge thing and now you don't get to hit them. Even if that thing that they put in front of it dies, it still did its job. It blocked all the damage you were going to do. So using Frenzy, you get to make it so that if they do try to block it with teeny things, just so that they cannot hit the damage, all that's going to happen is you'll kill the tiny thing and then get another attack that hits them. So yeah, this is good for letting your big units through, but overall, of course, it's a bit weak compared to most superpowers. But then you do get Galvanize. And just like in Embiggen on the plants, Galvanize is really good. In fact, it's even better than Embiggen on the plants because it's a trick, which means you can play it after the plants have already played. So you can surprise them. You can make them block something because they have 1/1 more than it or something, and then give it +2/+2 and get a free, positive trade for yourself. So yeah, you got 2 really good ones and 2 not so good ones, but even then, Heroic Health is really good in the right situation as long as you don't get it to start. With Infinity, oh boy. In fairness, I forget, these powers on average aren't that great. You do have Encrypted, which is a pretty niche power. It at least draws a card when you use it, so it cycles itself and gives you another card in its place. But it hides a zombie in a gravestone. This is a mechanic you'll see a lot of in the Sneaky class, where a zombie will essentially be invisible to the enemy. They won't be able to see what it is, they'll just know that a zombie's been playing in that lane because they'll see a gravestone there. And a lot of cards that have gravestone will trigger some ability when they pop out of their gravestone. So they're expecting that whatever is in that gravestone, when it pops out, it's going to do something. You can use this to put a zombie you already have on the board back inside a gravestone, which is useful if they have some kind of ability when they're played or when they're revealed from a gravestone, because that will re-trigger the ability. However, in general, this is pretty niche, and you mostly just play it to cycle itself out and get a different card, because first of all, you've lost the surprise factor. The plants get to see what was inside that gravestone before you put it in the grave, so it's kind of like, oh, well, there goes the surprise. And as well as that, as I say, it needs to have an on-play ability, otherwise this quite literally does nothing but just hide it for a turn and doesn't provide it any stat boosts or anything like that. The main use of it, I suppose, is that while something is inside a gravestone, it's invincible to anything except abilities that specifically say destroy a gravestone, which there aren't that many of. And they pop out of the gravestone only when tricks start. So what can happen is, if the plant had a Berry Blast in their hand or something, the deal 3 damage card, even if they know the thing in that gravestone only has 3 health, they can't Berry Blast it because it's still inside the gravestone and it doesn't pop out until they end their turn. So it saves you against stuff like that, but that is the only situation where it really saves you. So yeah, it's a bit, generally quite a bad power, obviously not the kind of thing you want turn 1. Same for this one, but at least again, this auto cycles itself. This is quite good. It might seem very inconspicuous, just giving a zombie +3 attack, but you only have 20 health in this game to start with. And everything attacks the turn it's played. There's no, like, wait for them to be able to attack. They attack instantly the turn it's played, and as long as there's nothing opposite it blocking it, then, yeah, they're just going to take that damage straight away. It's basically like every card in this game has charge, if you want to think about it that way. So being able to give something +3 attack for 1 after the opponent's already ended their turn is actually quite scary. Especially because if you've got anything in the amphibious lane and they don't have a way to deal with it right now, and you give it this, oh boy, will that end the game quickly if they don't top deck a solution. But finally, this thing. Infinity's signature ability is absolutely stupid. It is insane. Yes, these 2-1 Infinity clones have no abilities, except Amphibious. Yes, it's random lanes, so there's no guarantee that one will go in the water lane, and there's no guarantee they'll go where you want and all that. Yes, I know. However, keep in mind that this is 4-2 in stats for 1 that you get to play after the opponent has ended their turn, when usually you would have to play it before. And as well as that, both of these 2-1s are imps. And this game does have imp synergy, and imp synergy heavily favours having multiple imps on the board, because the main 2 imp synergy cards is one that makes every imp deadly, so anything it hits instantly dies, and one that draws you a card for every single time you hit the enemy player with an imp. So, yeah. This is quite strong. One of the strongest powers in the game. Really good. So, yeah, Infinity is a super good aggro hero. The Smash is a decent budget hero, but definitely the one I'm probably the least pumped about getting. And Super Rings, well, I've already kind of covered. Generally pretty good. A little bit of a mixed bag overall. Yeah. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about Captain Combustible yet, just because he's not one you will get. Like, it's likely that you won't get him yourself. But I will talk about his powers now, just because we're here. He's Kabloom and Mega Grow, which I thought would be a bad combination at first before I got him when I was playing this game ages ago. Because I just thought, well, you got stats and you got aggressive stuff. I don't know, like, I don't see where the crossover happens here. And to be fair, in terms of just pure synergies between these two groups, there aren't that many. However, what you do have is his powers. And, my god, Captain Combustible might have the strongest set of powers out of any plant, except maybe, like, Solar Flare. One of his powers is just to deal 3 damage to a zombie. That's good. 3 damage. Like, again, remember that that will just instantly kill any 2-drop, any 1-drop for 1, and you get this at the start of the game, like, a quarter of the time. That's pretty good. And big, and I already talked about this is a great power. Time to Shine, instantly giving a plant the ability to do a bonus attack. If you've got, like, a 5-attack plant that's 1 cost deal 5 damage, that literally instantly takes a quarter of the opponent's health off. And of course, you can easily set it up to be more than 5 attack you're dealing with this. It's a lot of damage. But on top of all that, you've got Blazing Bark. This might not seem that scary at first. What? A signature ability, and all it does is give 1 plant plus 4 attack. True, and I will say it's definitely one of the weaker abilities in a vacuum out of all the signature abilities. However, this card right here, Repeat Moss. This card is one of the better cards in the Mega Grow class, and with a lot of Mega Grow heroes, it's still kind of niche, even though it's one of the stronger ones. Just because it takes a lot of setup. It's quite small, very easily killed, and it costs 4. And already by this point in the game, a lot of games are kind of drawing to a close. They're getting close towards the end. So it's hard to be able to play this and then save Sun for a trick to play with it instantly as well. The easiest way to do it is with powers, since all powers are tricks. And all powers also cost 1, which is nice and cheap. So if you take this 4 cost 2/3 that does a bonus attack every time you play a trick, and then combine that with Captain Combustible, oh my. Say they block it with a 3 health zombie. You kill it with Meteor Strike and you get a bonus 2 damage from it as well because it does a bonus attack. Very nice. Okay, what about if you use Embiggen? Well, now you've got a 4/5 and it also instantly does a bonus attack. Very nice. What if you use Time to Shine on it? Well, that's 2 bonus attacks then. It triggers twice. But what if you use this? That's 6 instant damage. Unpreventable, essentially. That's pretty scary. So imagine you hoard your powers. You could, on turn 6, just be like, okay, here's my Repeat Moss. Here's instant 6 damage to your face. And then I also have Embiggen, so have another 8. 14 damage out of nowhere for only 6 Sun. Yes, you have to use 3 cards, But again, remember that 2 of these cards are cards that are your powers. You've got a very high chance of having them from the beginning of the game, and you're going to get another one when you block. So yeah, pretty strong combo. Oh, and also one last thing, good thing to keep in mind just in general when you play this game, is that you cannot have the same power more than once unless you just randomly conjure it or something. So, say that I'm playing against a Captain Combustible, and I have to play around their repeat moss. Like, I know they're going to play one, and I've got to make sure I keep it alive and all that. And obviously that means I have to worry about what powers they have, since all of these powers work really well with this repeat moss. Well, if they've already played Time to Shine, Embiggen, and Blazing Bark, and they only have one more block left, because after 3 blocks you can't block anymore, then I know the last power they're going to get is Meteor Strike, which means that I know to play around Meteor Strike rather than any of these other ones. That's also a good thing to keep in mind when you play this game, because it will save your life in a decent amount of situations. I understand that right now you probably won't memorize most of the powers that the heroes have, but you will start to over time, and I'm sure once you do, this will become very, very helpful. Anyway, I know that was very long-winded, but I think it's very important to get all this stuff out of the way if you're actually going to ask about, you know, how to make this, like, good advice for new players. So, when you go to buy packs, there are 4 sets in this game. Well, technically set 3 and set 4 are the same set, they just split it in 2 because development problems. But, here's the first set, the premium set. And, this is basically the one you want, because, okay, not that there's any sets that are not worth getting, really, but, they generally get worse in quality. Well, not even worse in quality. Generally, if you should prioritize them in this order. You should try and get set 1 packs the most, then Galactic Gardens, then Colossal, then Triassic, probably. Colossal and Galactic Gardens is kind of a tight one, they're both pretty good. I think it's pretty clear that the 4th set, Triassic Triumph, is the worst. There's 1 legendary for each class in this set. Set 3 and set 4, as I said, since they're split in half, both of them have half the cards the other ones do. And out of these cards, you don't have that many cards you need. Like, you probably need this card if you want to play Tempo decks in Kabloom. And that is literally it. Like, not that there's no cards here that are good, but just about every card here except this one isn't needed for a deck. They'll make decks better if you put them in and all that, but like, you don't need them to make a deck work. Unless you want to try Headhunter Dancing Zombies, which, don't get me wrong, I do believe that's an underrated deck, but that's definitely very niche. It's not exactly the thing I'd recommend you go for straight away. So, yeah. In the Super Res category, there are some better cards, but just in general, the cards that aren't from set 1 or set 2, they have a lot of synergies which rely on you having set 1 or set 2 cards as well, so you got to watch out for that kind of thing. As well as that, the commons, which of course you're going to be getting mostly uncommons when you buy these packs. These suck in set 4. Like, well, actually this one isn't that bad, but this, and this, and this. Yeah, these cards are generally not good. They're not all awful, but oh, don't even get me started on this. This card is so garbage. Oh, yeah, the uncommons you will get in this set are garbage, so set 4 is the last set you need. That's definitely the case. I'm a bit unsure about whether to put Galactic Gardens above Colossal or the other way around, but I'm sure about Premium Pack being the best, and Triassic being the worst. The reason why Premium Pack is the best is not even necessarily because it has the best cards, full stop, but it has a few reasons. First of all, you can only get heroes in set 1 packs. You have a 3% chance to get a hero every time you open a pack instead of a card. You have a 10% chance to get a legendary with all packs, by the way, I didn't mention that yet. You have a 30% chance to get a super rare, and if you don't get a legendary or super rare, you're guaranteed at least 1 rare card. So, those are your odds. But anyway. So, you can get any of the heroes in the game except those 11th heroes for both classes that I mentioned earlier from these packs. And as you can see, there's a much larger pool of cards here. Now, I will admit, out of the legendaries here, it's a little bit weirder. Like, there are definitely some legendaries here that aren't that great. Like, if we look at these, we have, well, actually, let's go from the bottom, I'd say. Well, actually, this card's decent, but it just doesn't fit into a lot of competitive decks. It's not exactly bad, but it's hard to fit in good decks. So, yeah, there's that. This card is pretty bad. This card is kind of a meme. Like, it's not like you can't use it. Like, if you want to use it, you can use it. But, like, it's definitely not overpowered or anything. This card is generally a bit slow. Not terrible, but kind of slow. This card costs 11. Don't get me wrong, I love this card, but it costs 11. Games of this... In this game, games do not go to turn 11. They do not. So you'd be very lucky if you survive to play this card. This card is really good, but only in other decks. Like, the kind of decks that use this card tend to be extremely expensive with lots of legendaries, so it's really hard to use this card if you get it as one of your first legendaries. So yes, I'll admit, the legendaries in set 1, like, they seem a little bit rough. This is one of the worst legendaries in the game. This is not bad, but, like, it's very, very expensive, and it's kind of overshadowed by an 8-cost legendary that Smarty has, which is even better as a finisher. This card, a lot of people think it's overpowered, but actually when you get higher ranked, this card is extremely easily counterable, and it's mostly just used to stomp noobs. Yeah. I think, okay, you know what, fair, I think you get the point. Wait, one last one. This one used to be really good, and it's not terrible, but it's very niche now. Only a few decks actually really want this card now. But yeah, sorry, I'll stop now. Yeah, so to be fair, I was a little bit skeptical when I was hearing people saying, yeah, first set packs are the best, because I thought it might be the second set, Galactic Gardens, instead, just because a lot of these legendaries aren't that great. But when you start looking at the legendaries, you start to realize that actually, the more common cards, you don't have bad ones in the first set. Headstone Carver is used in multiple tier 1 decks. It's really, really good. It's very just reliable. It's got synergy with lots and lots of different cards. Hot Dog Imp is just very useful for imp strategies because they generally tend to benefit from being able to hit the enemy. And Strike Through means that it hits all plants on its lane and the plant hero. By the way, when it says all plants, that also means if there's 2 tap plants on the same lane because of team up, it'll hit both of them and the hero, hitting 3 targets with 1 attack, which is very nice. You've got Arm Wrestler, which is a sports zombie, which will synergize with the sports package, who is also one of the best turn 1 plays in the Hearty class. You've got you got this card, which is used in a whole bunch of Miracle and combo decks, because it's essentially like a free 2-1, which you can use, especially because there's a certain card which whenever you play something on it, it will give you more brains. You can use this to actually gain brains instead of just getting a free 2-1, and use it to pull off crazy combos. This is literally just a 1-cost 3-2 as long as you play it on the leftmost lane, which, wow, that's like, it's really easy. People often forget this card exists just because it's so simple, but like, it's actually genuinely one of the better cards in the game, even as inconspicuous as it looks. There's some really good just common and uncommon, like uncommon and rare cards here. Even Bonk Choi, this used to be a pretty bad card, but then a lot of the most like meta 1-drops for the zombies now are 3 health zombies, because there's very few ways to deal 3 damage on turn 1 for the plants, and this is one of the only ways you can do it. So even this card, which used to be pretty bad, is now actually kind of decent. Oh yes, and Poison Ivy. This card has anti-hero, which means it'll do extra damage if there's no zombies blocking it, and so that means this is a 3-cost 5-3 as long as it hits face. And that's actually really, really good, because on the zombies this would not be a good card, but on the plants get to play after the zombies, so they get to wait to see where the zombies play things, and then they get to put this in an empty lane, and then unless the zombie has a trick that can kill it or something, they just have to take that 5 damage. Essentially, if you have this card in your hand and the opponent ever hits 5 health or less, you've already won a lot of the time. So yeah, this is a scary card, as inconspicuous as it may seem. So yeah, you get a lot of good commons here. Even just literally just Fire P. Like, I know it's just a 2-3-2. 2-3-2 is good in this game. I'm not even kidding. Like, there's a card called Apple Saucer, which is also basically just a 2-3-2 in Solar. The only other thing is that it has an ability where if you made 6 or more in Sun that turn, it gets Strike Through. That card is one of the best 2-drops in the game. And it's literally just a 2-3-2 with a very conditional ability. But it's really good. So yeah, anyway, you get some pretty good stuff, and a lot of this stuff is not only good, but very important to be able to build certain deck archetypes. So yeah, I think I've made my point. The legendaries might have a few stinkers, but other than that, you got the heroes, you've got some very critical uncommons, rares, and super rares. And even though there are some stinkers in terms of the legendaries, the ones that are good are some of the best legendaries in the game. The Zombot Plankwalker is one of the most consistent and reliable finishes in the game because it covers 3 lanes at once because it plays 3 zombies and has strike through so it can go through blockers. Mixed Up Gravedigger is a contender for maybe the best card in the game. Valkyrie is an absolute fucking menace even after the nerfs. Teleport is one of the most important cards to own in the game. The ability to play zombies during tricks literally completely changes the game and just makes you win so much more often. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. If you want to play the Mega Grow class, you basically need Bananasaurus Rex. It is an enormously powerful mid-game kind of finisher. Pine Clone is the most common effective finisher for any kind of swarm deck in Kabloom. Poppin' Poppies is one of the most powerful cards to keep you alive through the late and mid-game as a control deck in Guardian. Even Soul Patch, while not particularly meta, is absolutely a decent choice if you're running a particularly late-game deck and you just want to live. And Walnut Bowling is also a decent finisher. Brainana is one of the best kind of counters to trick-heavy decks, and in general, trick-heavy decks are the better decks in the game. So even though it won't work against decks that don't have that many tricks, most decks that don't have that many tricks are almost by definition low-tier. So this is literally like a card that basically just says, counter all high-tier decks. So, yeah, anyway, okay, I need to stop myself, but you get the point. There's definitely still some good legendaries in there. Anyway, so that's the premium packs. The Galactic Gardens packs are probably the second best. As I say, it's a little bit tough to pick. The legendaries, and this is why I almost debated that they might be better than the set 1 packs. The legendaries are kind of really insanely good. The Canolith, this is essentially a 5-cost 7/7, and that is kind of insane, even if it does lose attack as it loses health. And this effect can be used to OTK people very easily. We got Captain Cucumber, which people wrote off as just a fun meme card that wasn't actually that good competitively, but people just liked it because it was fun, because it gave you more legendary cards. But unironically, it's proven itself to be a really, really strong card draw engine for a class that otherwise couldn't get that many cards. And also, it synergizes really well with Bananasaurus Rex, since that grows every single time you draw a card. And it's already, I mentioned Bananasaurus Rex is kind of an auto-include in Mega Grow decks, and it's played the turn after Captain Cucumber, so it lines up perfectly. On your rings, not so much. Shooting Star Fruit is a bit of a weird one. It's very easily counterable, but if you don't counter this, it will almost always instantly kill your opponent. So, at higher levels, a lot of people say this card is garbage, but it depends. If you got a deck built around it, this thing can just pull off some absolute shenanigans. It's kind of scary. You got Darkmat and Dragon Fruit, the best finisher card in the game. Wipes boards while having huge stats while countering all tricks the opponent can possibly play to deal with it. Amazing card. You got Astrocardo, which at first seemed like a pretty bad card from this set when it was new, but we later realized just how valuable 5 damage of strike through is, and it was often a really powerful card that could finish off people really easily. When it's destroyed, you get an Astrocardo Pit, which is just a 1-cost, 1 health. If it survives a turn, it turns back into Astrocardo. And I used to think this was garbage until I realized that you're the plants. Again, you can wait until the zombies have already played to play the pit in a space where they haven't covered it. And that way you actually get a pretty high chance that this does come back. Astrovera, extremely good late game card, keeps you alive for extremely long and makes games go as long as you like. You got Interstellar Bounty Hunter, a really good card draw engine, good stats, one of the better cards in the Beastly class. You've got Interdimensional Zombie, great stats, and it turns into even more great stats just for playing a science card, which is a lot of science cards. By the way, Teleport is a science card. You've got Teleportation Zombie, who is also a science card, and also acts as another teleport, as long as he's alive on the board, and he's a 1/5 for 2, so it's really easy to keep him alive. As long as he's alive, you can teleport zombies in without even having to play teleport. You've got Quasar, who gives you superpowers. You've got Binary Stars, who double all damage that you deal, which can kill enemies really quickly. You've got Intergalactic Warlord, which can permanently buff all of your zombies everywhere, even ones you randomly generate for the rest of the entire game. And you've got Space Cowboy, one of the most absolutely terrifying cards to deal with if you want to try and stay alive. This might seem like a weird ability, but because it moves to the right, and because battles go from left to right, essentially every single time this guy hits you, and it doesn't die, it gets to move to the right and attack again. unless the space to the right is taken up, he can literally attack 5 times in one turn and deal 15 damage at once as a 4 cost with good stats. That's also an imp and a pet. Yeah, this card is absolutely insane. That's just the legendaries. In the super rares, this is one of the best 1-drops in the game. This is one of the most terrifying 1-drops in the game, and is used in one of the best decks in the game, Cycle Cap. You've got Thingy. This used to be one of the best cards in the game, but they had to nerf it multiple times, and now it's just, like, okay, to be fair. This card was underrated for a really long time, even by me, I must admit. But we've come to realize it's actually one of the strongest cards on the plant side with just enormous stats. I thought it was too niche, denying bonus attacks at first, until I realized that Frenzy counts as bonus attacks. And then I realized, wait, if the zombies can't use Frenzy, and they can't use bonus attacks, how can they get through defenses? Like, if I block them, how can they hit my face? Because usually they would use either bonus attacks or Frenzy to do it. And the answer is, aside from Strike Through, they literally can't. On a 4-cost 3/7. Yeah, that's pretty good. Thingy. Even this card, I thought this card was bad because it only works on plants on zombies on the ground and it can destroy your own things as well. But I've been destroyed by this card a few times. If you get a good Q-Cough, it's almost always an instant game win. It's definitely not like a high tier card, but it's better than I thought. This card is really good with Sports Energy again. It's super good at keeping you alive, and you can pull some shenanigans to temporarily make it invincible, so you can literally have turns of complete invulnerability. This is one of the best environments in the game. This is one of the best aggro cards in the game. This is one of the most reliable cards in the game. It's a 2-drop in general. Really hard to kill, gives you loads of cards, makes all your cards cheaper, super great. And this is now being used in one of the best decks in the entire game as well, even though it used to be a bit memey. So, yeah. I know I'm feeling this in, but I just love talking about these cards. The rares as well, a lot of these rares aren't exactly necessary, but what they are is you might notice a lot of them are similar looking. These are all cosmic cards, and their gimmick is they're all understated for their cost, but when you play them, they will give you a random card, and that random card will get some random kind of buff, which is related to the kind of card they are. Nuts have a kind of thing of having 3 attack, since there's a lot of cards in the game that can kill things with 2 or less attack, and ones that can kill with 4 or more. But there's only one card in the game that can kill with 3 or less. So there was a whole thing of wanting to make Nuts 3 attack, so that they couldn't be destroyed by either. So that's why this makes it 3. Anyway, yeah. These cards aren't necessarily good. In fact, this card is like maybe one of the worst cards in the entire game, full stop. But they are really good for budget players since they give you random cards, and those random cards can very easily be super rares and legendaries that you could never afford to craft for yourself and put in your own deck. So yeah. And the uncommons, oh boy. Environments, first of all, you need environments in the first place, because the only way to destroy an environment is to replace it with another environment. Or an obscure thing you might not know is that the squirrel zombie that the beastly class has, which can destroy a nut or berry, can also target environments, which means you can destroy Planet of the Grapes without replacing it by another environment by using Squirrel Herder. But that's an extremely obscure interaction. We're talking about most situations here. You essentially almost can't destroy environments unless you just replace it with another environment. So even if you don't plan to make an environment-based deck, you probably want to run at least 3 environments in each of your decks. So you're going to want an environment card, and since they were added in the second set, you will have to get them from set 2. Well, there are some in later sets, but they're mostly in set 2. And not that you wouldn't want to get them from other sets anyway, because Spike Resector here, despite being an uncommon, is one of the most powerful cards in the entire game. Photosynthesizer is an extremely, budget player-friendly card that is genuinely still good at high ranks. Planton is a super underrated, super powerful tempo card. I mentioned Berry Blast is super good. This is used similarly to Berry Blast. It's just 1 cost, deal 2 damage. It's very useful for counteracting the play. This is the card I was talking about. That's one of the best 2-drops in the game, even though it's basically just a 2 cost 3/2. You've got the ability in Brainy to literally just permanently gain more brains for the rest of the game for only 2. Yeah, that's pretty good. You get some really good cards here. This card is used in Cycle Cap. It's one of the best cards in the game in that deck specifically. It used to only cost 2, and it used to be really good in a lot of decks, but unfortunately they nerfed it, which I'm actually kind of unhappy about that. I had so many decks that used this card in ways besides Cycle Cap's way, and it was really fun to play with and really interesting, but now it's basically just using Cycle Cap, but that is one of the best decks in the game, so you know. Yeah, anyway, I think you get the point. really good cards here, really good packs. Honestly, if you could get Heroes and Galactic Gardens, I might say Galactic Gardens is better than the first set. Then you got Colossal Fossils, set 3, which has a few legendaries, which are super good. This is an auto-include in just about any Guardian deck. It's really hard to kill, and it will grow out of control. And because it's so cheap, you can run it in aggro, you can run it in tempo, you can run it in control, you can run it in literally anything. This is also an auto-include 1-drop in every Smarty deck. This is an amazing card. And it works with just about every deck. This is an auto-include in almost every solo deck, except ones that are aggressive. But other than those 3, it gets a little bit weird. Like, not that these cards are bad, but a lot of them are only used in a very narrow selection of decks. I suppose Gatling P. You see, I used to think Gatling P was really bad, and I never actually tried it properly because of that. It's one of the few cards in the game I never tried, because I thought this looked like a really bad card. But I found out, apparently, it's really, really good, and I just slept on it. So, I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. But yeah, in the Super Rares, you get... Oh my god, this is one of the most overpowered cards in the game. You get this, which is pretty good. You got this card as well, which used to be one of the most overpowered cards in the game, and even after they nerfed it, it's still pretty good, and in my opinion, a bit underused. You can... I mean, this can be a 4-5 on turn 1. I think that's all I have to say. And it's got Untrickable, which means that you cannot use tricks to hard remove it. I think that explains my reasoning. You also got this card, which is very good in just about any deck in Brainy, being able to have great stats on a zombie that gives all zombies around it Untrickable while being Untrickable itself. You get some decent ramp cards, and you get Splitpea as well, which this might seem weird, a 2-4 one with a downside, but 4 damage is really good in this game for a 2-drop, because remember, everything attacks instantly and plants play second, so unless they have a trick for this, this is a guaranteed 4 damage to face that you can pull out at any time, that if they don't kill will also continue to threaten 4 damage. Even if it hits you back, that's really good. And actually, the fact that it hits you back is kind of an advantage because it charges your block meter. So yeah, Splitpea's really good as well. Imitator's really good for any high-value deck. It does just what you think. The next plant you play, it transforms into a copy of. This is one of the stronger cards in the game. The Hot Lava will deal 1... It's an environment that will deal 1 damage to both plants and zombies there every turn before they attack. And that means this is one of the few 2-drops that's capable of dealing 4 damage, which means that it can deal with a lot of 2-drops and 3-drops that are really scary on the zombie side that would have 4 health. 3-Nut, super underrated card, amazing, makes everything's attack 3 that you play. There's just so much good stuff here. The only problem is when you get down to the uncommons. You got some rough ones here. Like, you might think a 0-cost 1-1 is good. This is not useful in just about any deck. This is definitely a meme. This card's alright, but it doesn't draw any cards in its place, and there's just better stuff out there for buffs. Yeah, the only cards here that stick out to me that like I would say you really want to use are this card, because a 0-1-1 team-up is a lot better than a 0-1-1 Amphibious, I'll tell you that. And it also works really well in Cycle Cap. And this card, which is a bit of a weird one. 1-1s don't tend to be good, but the fact this is a team-up 1-1 that also can deal with 2-2s as long as they're played on heights is, you know, it kind of redeems this card from being garbage. But yeah, just about all the rest of the... Oh, actually, Grave Mistake. Grave Mistake, in my opinion, is underused. Most people do not use this card because it just puts the gravestone back in their hand. So even though you do stop them from playing it that turn, they can just play it the next turn. But the fact that it draws a card, which means it cycles itself out, which makes it useful against decks where you didn't really need the gravestone removal, because at the very least it didn't take a card slot in your hand. You know, it replaced itself once you play it. But also, I don't think it matters that much that they can play it again later, because usually you can mess them up by like bouncing something really expensive back. You'll want to use this on something that costs 4 or more, and if you're bouncing something back that expensive, I think that more than pays for itself. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the rares and uncommons are kind of rough in this one, but the legendaries and super rares are really good. So yeah, I'd say I agree. I'd say it's very close, but Premium Pack is best, Galactic Garden second, Colossal Fossils third, Triassic Triumph is no question the worst one. Yeah, I'm pretty confident with that. As for how you should buy them, well, you probably noticed that if you spend 1,000 gems instead of 100, you'll not just buy 10 packs, but you'll get 1 bonus pack for free. So yes, you should do that. Basically always, except when you first get the game, you're going to have literally no cards except the starter ones. So far, I have been just buying packs one at a time. And I'm going to keep doing that for a bit until I feel like I can build like at least one complete feeling deck that doesn't just feel like an amalgamation of what cards I have with at least one of the heroes. And once I can do that, I'll probably switch to waiting to get 1,000 gems. Anyway, I know I've kept you waiting for a really long time. Let's play a single game. And since we get more tickets if we play Green Shadow right now, how about we play Green Shadow? I do think they're kind of one of my weaker heroes at the moment. So I can show you what I have right now. Alright, so we'll redraw this. Don't think I want Fertilizer in opening hand. I don't want that in my opening hand either. Oh, I don't like this already. Oh, that's better. The Torchwood here gives P's behind it plus 2 attack. And it has Team Up. It's a bit of a weird card, but it's a free one to start with, so that's why it's in our deck. And a lot of the free cards are P shooters, so yeah. And the reason why this is good is because of this card, Black Eyed P. Even though this is more a bean, of course it is called a Black Eyed P, so it's considered a P as well. So even though it isn't a P shooter, it will still work with the Torchwood. You see, they made a mistake here. They played their power to play 2/1/1 backup dancers, which is kind of like the zombie equivalent to that power which summons 2/1/1 mushrooms that Solar Flare has. Yeah, they probably shouldn't have done that because they just kind of charged my block meter. What I could use at this time is I could start to use this card to make things untrickable, since he is saving brains for tricks. But the thing is, he's a brainy hero. He's got 2 brains right now. I'm pretty sure he's saving that because he's going to play the card which gives him +1 brains permanently for the rest of the game. The other class he is Crazy, which is good at direct damage. However, their direct damage card is a 1-cost deal 2, which isn't enough to kill this, unless he has 2 of them. Also, every time he plays a trick, this gets +1/+1. I was about to say the only 2-cost trick I can think he could use on this is Final Mission, and there's Final Mission. Final Mission is a relatively unpopular card. It deals 4 damage for 2, but it forces you to sacrifice a zombie for it. But it turns out they had it, which is kind of strange. I have no idea what this deck is. Maybe this guy just got Professor Brainstorm, and this is like just a mishmash of random Brainstorm cards. Yeah! Oh, I got lucky there. I don't like putting it here, but obviously I can't put it here because it'll just die. And I had to put the Peapod here to get the attack boost. I don't want to put it here because I want to put the repeater with this. But if I do, it can't attack the lanes next door because it'll only hit this one. There's no lane here to hit. I don't think I care about making that untrickable so much if this is just a mishmash of random cards and he's not playing a particularly well-constructed deck. I know you might be like, oh, why are you like surprised? Aren't you playing a new account and all that? But like, obviously, because I've played this game a decent amount, I've gotten myself to a decent rank already, and I have like won a lot of these games, so I know that I'm not exactly just getting matched up against people at my skill level at this moment. At least my level of cards, I suppose, is the better way to put it. This might seem weird. What I'm thinking is, this turn I just put this here. If we manage to increase the attack of this, it gets way better. So it'll set that up for later if we manage to draw a card that'll help it out. But what else we can do is we can kill this with this, the middle one, and then we can use this to move this to the middle, and then use our power to instantly kill it. For now, we just got to tank the hits though, which is unfortunate. We're not really getting a hand that would help us out here. Don't fill the middle lane. Ooh. Ooh, yikes. Well, we can deal with both of them at least. These guys throw an imp every time they get hurt, but luckily it's just a 1/1 with Amphibious. It doesn't do anything. Oh, you're 1 damage off, my friend. Well, we rolled a 1, but that might actually be good, because we might get to block something more damaging later. Oh, no. Oh, wait, no, we'll kill that before... Yeah, because this attacks... Yeah. Okay, so we're good. We're good. We do have this card, which is terrifying for them. 3 bonus attacks in a row for 8. This card is stupid, and I wish it was deleted from the game, but it's one of the only super rares I own, so I'm sure as hell using it. Oh, boy. In fact, you know what? Screw it. You saved 7 whole brains for tricks. I have no idea what you're up to, but I know that nothing I play can survive. I'm chucking this out there, and I'm just going to see what you're going to do. Are you going to drop like a Bad Moon Rising on a single zombie? I don't know if this guy would have Bad Moon Rising, if it's... No, it's not Bad Moon Rising. He can at least kill that, which sucks a little bit, but again, we only have 1 trick to synergize with it, so it's not that bad that we don't get to use our repeat moss. Oh, actually, okay, we don't need to play this yet. We're actually going to get it for better value. We're going to... How do I do this? Because I've got to proc his block first. Actually, no, I should have put this in the center. I should have put the growth room here and then buffed this one. He might have another 3 damage. It's uncommon that they run that card, but he had it, and they might have more. I'm very glad that Brainstorm used to have the Lightning Strike power that dealt 3 damage, and they realized that he was too good with it. He was the best hero of the game at the time, and honestly is still in the running for the best hero of the game, even now they've gotten rid of that Lightning power from him and given him a different one. They gave him the Dance's power he used earlier instead. That didn't used to be one of his powers. It used to be for Z-Mech, but then they were probably the worst zombie hero, and the Dance's power obviously sucks. So they swapped him around. They gave Z-Mech the Lightning Strike and Professor Brainstorm the Dancers to balance them out, since, you know, Z-Mech was struggling, but Professor Brainstorm was just way too good. I think this is them essentially conceding. Oh, no, they're still here, they're still here. Oh yeah, earlier when they used their signature power, Eureka, it gave them 3 random cards from the entire game. Literally, it can be anything. But it doesn't matter, because we just... Yeah. If that didn't instantly kill them, which, I mean, it did, but if that didn't, that would have been a total of, what, 6 plus 3 plus 9, 18 damage. Yikes. Oh, hey, we just got a quest. What convenient timing. Oh, hey, I did one of my hero quests. Oh, yeah, I've also been working on those as well. There's hero-specific quests. Oh, okay, this works well. I can now get 10 gems right now, because the new quest I got for the Green Shadow was just to craft a Podfather. Let's see. I haven't used this card in years. 10 gold. Not gold. Diamonds. Alright then. Well, I guess I'll get another premium pack. Oh, well. Oh, but that's another Podfather. That's 2. Did get another Bone Choy as well. Celery isn't bad. I change my mind on this card sometimes, but I think overall this is overpriced. And I think I have now, but I have 4 Berry Angries. What? Okay. Alright, so play 3 Dancing Zombies. I don't think I want that. Nah. Okay, so when you get quests, I think you should be very eager to re-roll them. Unless it's like a really good quest and you just really want to keep it. You should re-roll quests whenever you get the chance. The reason for that is you have a small chance of getting a long quest which will give you 100 gems if you complete it instead of 10. So anytime you get a 10 gem quest, you should re-roll it to try and get a 100 gems quest if you can. Anyway, wait, I've already forgotten. What was it? 20 damage is... Oh, Green Shadow. Oh, guess we're sticking on Green Shadow. Okay, what are the bad cards in this deck? Honestly, Torchwood's probably going now. We're probably getting to the point where this deck is actually a little bit busy. And there's a lot going on. It's actually hard to pick out what's not good. Do I want this? Like, I don't, but also it's the only amphibious card in my deck. I don't trust to run this with no amphibious. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with it for a bit. And as you can see, we've already found another game. As I say, it's surprising how active the player base for this game still is, despite how long it's gone with literally nothing. Didn't really get what I was looking for, but at least we got a decent 2-drop. As long as he doesn't have his signature power to start off the game, I think we're fine. I'm a little bit scared if he... Yeah, okay. If he summoned those Infinity Clones and got like 4-2 worth of stats on the board turn 1 and I had no turn 1 play, I'd be scared. It's pirates? It's not necessarily pirates, but this Gravestone synergy, a lot of pirates are Gravestone cards, and so pirate decks, which are pretty high tier at the moment, tend to use that card. I don't know. It could be Gravestone control as well, I guess. But like, I think you use that with Neptune. I don't think you tend to use that with Infinity. Also, why is he playing this on turn 2? Why is he playing this on turn 3? What is going on? Okay, I feel like he just has a plumber because he's in the crazy class. The crazy class can deal 2 damage for 1 using Bungee Plumber. But he doesn't. I'm very confused what this guy's up to. Okay, so whatever comes out of that Gravestone is going to have improved stats. But I honestly don't know how much I care. Like, sure, have those improved stats. I'm going to block the next hit I take anyway. Oh yeah, it's definitely Gravestone control. Huh. Weird. Have not seen just straight up Gravestone control in a long time. Oh, you poor, poor thing. I know it doesn't kill it, but like, that is so much value. Usually people play around that. Usually people do not play things in the middle lane unless they absolutely have to, because they know Green Shadow can do that. Oh boy. In fact, we can kill it without even having to fight it with this now, unless they have a trick. Oh yes, this is perfect. And if they don't kill this Torpedo, they're in trouble next turn, because next turn we can get this to an enormous amount of attack and just get so much value off of it. Okay, he's going to move it. Fair enough. So he's going to get 1 Gravestone before it dies. And it's also that Gravestone will also block our shot. Actually, that Gravestone is a problem because now Okay, what is this deck? What? I was going to use Plant Food to get a bonus attack here, but there's no point in bonus attacking an invincible Gravestone. I think I just make this huge. Because I don't think he has a way to deal with it, to be honest. In Sneaky and Crazy, the only way you have to kill something huge is Deadly. And I don't think he has Deadly. There's a chance it's his starting power and he's been holding it this entire time. That would be really weird if he held it this long, but then he could have. I'm just going to play this. It's going to die, I don't care. So we didn't want to attack into this, but I think this was still the right play, because one of the Gravestones it could have been is a 2-2 with Anti-Hero 4, meaning combined with the buff from this guy, he would deal 7 damage to our face if I didn't block him. Of course, in reality, that's not what's happened, but... Oh yeah, Doi, literally, this kills it. My brain's already gone dead that quick. Also, I just rolled 2 1s in a row. Could I please block? I mean, now I'm going to block the 1 damage, but whatever. I'm going to use this just to clear lanes for this Repeater. Please don't bounce it. Yeah, okay, there we go. I would have preferred one of the Infinity Clones, but I suppose that lets me hit face with the cattail. Wait, I think I've got lethal. I think... I'm skeptical this guy can survive what I'm about to do. I think you're dead, buddy. Nah, I think you're dead. I think you're kind of dead there, my guy. I think you're looking pretty dead right there. That's 30 damage staring you down right now. That's quite a lot of damage. 30 damage. Really, it's quite a lot. It's a decent amount. It's a rather copious amount of damage to intake at one single sitting. Okay, it was just +3 attack. I thought it might be just +3 attack, because if it was the give zombies deadly one, he should have played it on turn 2 with the 1-3. even if it wouldn't surprise me, it would still be worth it because it would cycle it for a better card, and he would make his 1/3 deadly, making it more of a threat. Well, anyway, that's oh, actually, well, we got the daily challenge as well. We got a puzzle pie. May as well do that. You don't like them? Okay, right. I love these puzzle ones. Essentially, every Wednesday, the daily challenge, instead of just being a normal game, will be a puzzle where you have to figure out how to win in one turn. You may destroy the thing you need most or let the wrong thing through. Oh, wait. I think I vaguely remember this one. I think it's actually really, like, it's a lot harder than it looks. So this seems easy at first, because Grapes of Wrath will deal 6 damage to the enemy when it dies. So all we have to do is get this thing to die before we die. Only problem is, of course, we got this staring us down and this staring us down. So we've got to block both of them. The main problem with this is... Okay, just a moment. This gets +4 attack when it's hurt. So it only needs to be aggravated once, right? Hang on, am I... So, if we blow up this barrel, we get a 4/3 will pop out of it and it'll do 1 damage to everything. If there's an empty lane, this will throw a 1/1 into it, but there will be no empty lanes, because this will fall in here. So, I swear if I just... Okay, if I played that there and used it to ping this up off, this gets to 5 attack, this goes down to 5 health. Oh yeah, but then I just die. Oh, right, I see the problem then. Wait, hang on. Okay, so this is going to go here then. We've got to not block this lane. Or we've got to set that up late. Yes. And then this doesn't die. It sets off both those, but there's no lanes to go into. This goes here. I don't know if I'm crazy, but I swear this is just it. Like, I feel like I'm missing something here, but I think I just don't shoot this at any zombies. And then I win. Because, like, that lines up. And they can't summon any imps to ruin anything at any point, because there's no lanes at any point. Yeah, I got it. Huh, weird. I suppose if they did make his health 8 to signal that's what you're supposed to do, it might have been a bit too obvious. I thought I was missing something for a second there. Well, either way, thank you for watching. I know it was a bit of a long one, but, you know, I wanted to talk about free-to-play. There you go. And, of course, there'll be more videos once I can actually start making some budget decks that aren't just a collection of the cards I just so happen to own and are actually thought out and, you know, actually make sense. So, anyway, I'll see you whenever that is. And see you in the next one. Goodbye.